Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are here in the Cherokee Batting Range podcast studio getting ready to record episode number 174. We're going to talk about whether or not creating a new team is a good idea.
Right.
Before we do that, let's talk about our sponsors. First, the Anderson Bat Company.
Everything Fast Pitch is very proud to have Anderson Bat Company as our presenting sponsor. Anderson Bat Company is using the latest and greatest bat technology to corner the market in the fast pitch world. They have the -9 Rocket Tech, the -10 Carbon, and the -11 Carbon Light. Anderson Bat Company is using this technology to put a high-performing bat in the hands of hitters that really know the difference between a good bat and a great bat. We're also working with Anderson to provide a discount for all of our listeners. Go to the Anderson Bat Company website and order your bats. Use the EFP20 discount, which is for everything fast pitch, and you'll get a 20% discount. It's a great way for you to save a little bit of money on a great bat and also help support everything fast pitch at the same time.
Talking about supporting us, become a patron. We need more patrons. People, please come on board if you can. You go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. It's $5, $10, or $20 a month. We really need to get another handful of people to come on board. We are so close to breaking even. It's kind of heartbreaking that we keep coming up.
We got to get there.
We keep coming up short. Thank God we've gotten as close as we have. Thank you to all the patrons that are supporting us.
Yeah.
I'd say if we could get 12 more people to come on across the spectrum,
another handful,
and I think we'd be in the black. If they were all $20, we definitely would be in the black.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
$5 is not too bad.
$5 is a big help. If a lot of people do a little, it makes a big difference. So let's talk about this. I'm an assistant coach.
Yep.
On our team, there's 3 or 4 players that just love me, that think I'm a great coach. So I got to decide. I think I'm going to take those 3 or 4 players, and that's going to be my nucleus. We're going to create our own team. We're going to start all over and build a new team with those 3 or 4 as our nucleus. So good news is you got 3 or 4 kids that are
pretty solid,
that you like coaching, that you know like you as a coach. But the bad news,
we need another.
It means we need 8, 9, 10 more kids to actually have a team. And this is where I think this whole discussion goes completely off the rails. This is why we have this nonstop barrage on Facebook, where every time I open up one of the Facebook groups for fast pitch softball, the first 25 things I see on every single page is, we need 2 new players to round out our beautiful roster. We've got a championship caliber team. We just need 3 more players. We need a bracket ready pitcher, and we'll be ready to compete for the national championship. But I think that whole second part of this discussion, all those Facebook posts and all those teams desperately looking for players, is way too many people start off with 3 or 4 kids and think that's enough to start a team.
No, I think that the concept that we've diluted the talent to a point that's really challenging for everybody and counterproductive maybe for kids progressing like we'd like them to as well. It's at a point where, everybody's scrambling from tournament to tournament to make sure we've got a whole roster.
Right. The number of teams that are rock solid that don't need a player or 2 is probably smaller than the number of teams that do.
Oh,
and when you think about that, it's kind of a scary thought, because obviously the pool to draw from, the depth of that pool has been drained so drastically, because every one of these teams that has 3 or 4 good players that are going to split off and start a new team are the kids that should be that pool, that should be finishing off the teams that are already existing, that already are pretty good, that need 1 or 2
They're
good
rounding
players.
them up.
Right.
Yeah.
That should be the last couple of pieces to a team, instead of everybody getting this idea that because we have a group of 3 or 4 kids. So the reason I want us to talk about it is that I want to stem the tide. I want us to slow this trend down. We've got so dang many travel teams. It's ridiculous.
It's exciting, Tori, that there's that many people that are willing to do what it takes to organize, to go the extra mile.
But they're misguided in what it really does take. And that's why we have the second half problem of all these teams that don't really have enough players. And I don't know about you, but there's not enough money in the world. There's not enough.
But we know better.
Right. There's no way in the world that I would be sitting here, a month before our first game, still looking for a player and be happy about the fact that I have a team.
Right.
Right. And even if I've got 10 good players and I think, we could play but we still need one or two to have the depth.
Picking up every weekend.
Right. And I've been on that picking up players, adding players ride recently. And, it has definitely soured me on this whole thing. This idea of let's just start a team and let's just advertise for players and let's just have tryouts and let's just build a team is something that on paper seems like a really good idea. And in a fantasy world where everything goes the way we want it to go is a really simple plan to fulfill. The reality of it is way more complicated and way more difficult to achieve. And again, part of the reason is because we have so many teams all looking for a player, when that group starts off with 3 or 4 really good kids that we're going to build around, the competition for the other 8 kids that they need is so drastic, so crazy that it's hard to put it together.
Absolutely. Well, and when we talk about the excitement and the wonderful part of the experiences that we had when we played ball, we were a part of groups that were together for a long time that had competition within the group because of the numbers. We had enough kids in there that made us work hard all week so that we'd get a chance to play on the weekend. And also, too, the cohesiveness and the functionality of everyone knowing the pop-up communication, everybody knowing how we do rundowns, everybody knowing how our relays happen, looking down at the coach's box and seeing the look in the coach's face and the confidence that they have in you as a player kind of goes out the window when we're having to add 2 or 3 different kids every weekend.
Right.
And we're talking about trying to create a championship team, or we're just a couple players short of a championship team. And again, I think that we're falling short if we don't build a bigger, stronger base
Right.
to really get started.
So the moral to the story is having the idea, the plan of starting your own team. If that's what you really want to do, then what I think we have to do is we have to just be honest with ourselves and start to realize the number of kids you have to already have committed to playing for you needs to be a whole lot closer to your finished roster than a lot of people have been thinking that they needed to. I think where there's way too many of I've got 4 kids, I'm going to find 8 that really should be, I've got 8 or 9, I need to find 2 or 3.
We need 4 kids from 4 teams.
And that, to me, I think is where this discussion needs to go. And Don, I agree with you. It's exciting that so many kids want to play and so many people want to have teams.
Want to help, yeah.
But flip side of it is, and we talked about this several weeks ago on Everything Fast Pitch, it's shocking to me how we live in a time in this game now where we're playing fast pitch softball, and comparatively, we have way more great players, way more really good players than we used to have.
A lot more.
And less good teams.
Right.
And there's just no nice way, and very few great teams. I had this discussion after we did the Everything Fast Pitch podcast. I'll share this with y'all. One of the dads who is a regular listener who I work with his daughter in lessons basically wanted to have an argument with me because his daughter plays on a really good team. And he's like, well, our team can win the national championship. And I said, well, okay, I'm not going to say that they can't, but what national championship are we talking about?
Right, first.
Right, that what national championship are we talking about? Because that's part of my idea of whether or not you're really a great team. Because there's some national championships that are much more
Southeast Invitational,
much more vacations than they are high level softball tournaments. But then the flip side of it is, where's your roster from? He's like, well, what do you mean? He said that doesn't have anything to do with it. I said, no, for my point in my argument, it does. I was talking about back in the day when you had 60 great players from the Atlanta area, all of whom could go to practice together on a Tuesday night. They could all get to practice. I mean, that they all lived that close to each other. They were all in the metro Atlanta area, spread out over 4 teams, and every one of those 4 teams could win the national championship. And it's like, well, there's 4 teams in Atlanta now that can win the national championship. Okay, great. How often do your kids practice? Well, we hardly ever practice. Well, then I don't think you're a national championship caliber team. It's like, no, but we're really talented. I said, I agree you're really talented. Where's your team from? We got 1 girl from Virginia. We got 2 girls from Michigan. We have 1 girl from Arizona. We have 1 girl from Texas. And we have 7 girls from Atlanta. So what's practice look like? Well, we don't practice. We just show up and talk about a few things and we play.
Right.
That's the point. That's why I'm still arguing we don't have great teams, because great teams, as you said, know how to do rundowns. They know how to do cutoffs. It's not that they are so dominant on the mound that they win games, even though they can't play defense worth a lick. They win games because they get 15 strikeouts a game. So the other 6 outs, they got to catch pop-ups.
Right.
We're talking about, nitty gritty playing against other great. So it all comes back to this whole point. There are a lot of great players. There's way too many teams. Players are too spread out. So we have less great teams. And we have a whole lot of teams that don't really need to exist. And I can tell you they don't need to exist because they're all looking for players every week to play. If you don't have a team that's going to show up this week, you don't have a team. If you're on the phone begging kids to play just so you can have 9 kids to play this weekend, that's not a team. And nobody can tell me that's a team. So that's my old man rant for the day. That's like playing pickup at the park. That's like, we're just going to show up and we're going to get we're going to run around a little bit. We're going to have uniforms because it's a little bit organized. We're not really a team because half those kids don't even know the girl's name who you just picked up to play this week.
Isn't that crazy? And that's, again, why I would advocate having a larger roster so that it's rare and odd to have to pick anybody up.
And if you're going to, and for all of you coaches who want to be, have your own team, they want to start a team of your own, there's nothing wrong with that idea, but change your thought process. If you don't have almost a whole team before you start,
it's going to be tough.
Don't do it. Don't do it because you're not going to be happy with what you're going to end up with because you're going to be scraping the internet wavelengths, dying to find one more kid that fits your age group just so you have somebody to put in a uniform, just so you have enough kids to play. And to me, that's not having a team. That's not playing real softball. That's just you jumped into the deep end of the pool before you were ready to swim.
No, I think that's an exciting topic, Tori, for sure.
All right. So have more kids before you're ready to start your own team. Make sure you're close to having a full roster, and I think we'll all be a whole lot happier. And I'll be able to look at Facebook and look at the groups on Facebook looking for things to talk about other than how many teams need one more player.
Yeah, we gotta figure that one out.
For sure. So that's going to wrap up episode number 174. Please make sure you support Anderson Bat Company. Become a patron if you can. Go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. As always, go to the fastpitchprep.com website and order your Square Cuts training discs. Check out the YouTube channel and the blogs. And for Coach Don McKinley, our producer Stan Lewis, Coach Tori saying thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.